All right. Hey, everyone. We're going to be talking today about the beginnings and the origins of the Muslim Empire and the early Islamic states. For those of you with us with the pre-AP course, that is the beginning of the fourth quarter workbook. Right. And so the activity that was assigned goes with that, but this will help kind of support the information there and the information, the activity that we have. Right. So I want to begin by sharing my screen, okay, with the map that I have in my background. All right, so this is a map of the early Islamic Empire, where it kind of began, right? And it's pretty important to know and understand where all this is taking place, okay, and where it's beginning. We're really focusing on this part down here in the Arabian Peninsula. Oops, sorry, that. Okay. And in the city of Mecca. Now, before Muhammad, this all begins right with Muhammad. Muhammad is, some would say, the founder of Islam. We'll talk about that designation or that expression in just a minute. But Muhammad is, I have my notes over here on another screen also. Muhammad becomes a prophet, but before he's even around, let's talk about the city of Mecca. Mecca is a center for trade. It is a center for culture. It is a very wide open city. People from all over the world, all over the near world, that is to say, have traded in Mecca. They come from all over. They bring their cultures, their religion, their way of life. And so in order to be that inviting, Mecca needs to be open to other cultures. This way they could benefit from all that trade. The more people that come, the more money the merchants and such make. Okay, and so Muhammad, when he's born, he's living in Mecca. He is a merchant himself. He is a trader. He actually works for, strangely enough, I know it seems strangely enough, he works for the person who will eventually be his wife. His wife will actually be his boss before they're even married, which is something, when you consider the time period, is really rather unique, because the status of women, as we have learned during these earlier time periods, is below that of a man. And the result is, this demonstrates how open Mecca is to different ideas and how progressive they are for the time. And in Mecca, there was I'm going to use the word temple. There was a holy place that was not designated to any specific religion. It was open. People could come and worship any religion or any way they wanted. There were idols and statues and so on to gods and of all different religions. So anyone who came there could find their place and worship there, right? The result of that, again, is that openness. Not many other cities in that region were that open to different cultures and different ideas. All right, so Muhammad is doing his job. He's a trader, he's a merchant, and he has this vision. He receives the word of God from Gabriel. Okay, and the archangel Gabriel will come to Muhammad and bring the word of God to him in the same Jewish Christian sense of God. Monotheism, should have no other gods besides me, etc. And of course, like anything else, Muhammad is at first skeptical, just like Moses was skeptical, for example. But eventually he will accept this as the word of the true God, the one God, and he will come back to Mecca. He will talk to his wife, and they will say that we need to, they need to convert, and they need to convert Mecca because God has chosen this place, has chosen us to receive his word, and we have to honor and worship him. So they go to the city leaders to say, listen, we need to abandon all these other religions. We need to get rid of all these other idols in the temple. this temple, which is called the Kaaba needs to be dedicated to the one true God, to Allah. And they reject that idea. They say, no, we need to continue the way things have been going. We have been doing very well the way things have been going. And so they refuse to change. Um, Eventually, Muhammad will gain a following, and these followers will continue to pressure and pressure and pressure the leaders to the point where it actually gets dangerous for them to actually be there. So they will leave. Actually, there will be the government will take action against them, and Muhammad and his followers will be forced to flee from Mecca to the city of Yathrib. Okay, now Yathrib, right, will accept Muhammad and his followers, and they will convert to Islam. And Islam means submission to the will of God. The people who follow this are called Muslims, and Muslim means one who follows the word of God. And while they're there, they grow a large following. The city converts, they raise an army, and they come back to Mecca to force Mecca to convert to Islam. And Mecca surrenders, seeing that there was no way they could stand up to them. And Mecca then converts, and they convert the temple, the Kaaba, to Islam, right? To the one God, to dedicate it to Muhammad. Okay, so we have Mecca, right? And that becomes the center of Islam. So the religion continues to grow. Muhammad is the head of that religion. He will continue to grow his following. As you could see, the orange area that was there, that was the original locations for where Islam spread initially. We zoom back out where we were, okay, Islamic territory, while Muhammad lived, which was only about a decade during this. And what ends up happening is after him is you have the next leaders or the next caliphs. These caliphs are called the 5 rightly guided caliphs, beginning with Muhammad. They are all descendants or related to Muhammad, either through blood or through marriage, right? And during their time period, the orange shows how far it spreads during his time period. And the reason why it's able to spread is because it brings a message of unity, brings a message of salvation, of the word of God. And instead of having all these different hodgepodge, if you will, of local religions, they accept and embrace this new religion. And because of the unity and the support it guarantees, the easier it is for this religion to grow and spread. Now, after Muhammad dies, there becomes a sort of schism or a rift in the empire. And some people say that only descendants of Muhammad can be the caliphs, the leaders of this religion, of this empire, because Muhammad was the one that Gabriel spoke to. So he is the closest to, communicating with the divine. Others say just because you're related to Muhammad doesn't mean that you are the person who is best or best understands the word of God. And so there's a schism between two groups. And those two groups are, today we would call them Shiites and Sunnis. Shiites are the ones who believe the leader must be a follower of Muhammad, and Sunnis are the leader should be the best and the brightest, who will then lead all of the empire. Okay, and the rest of this map kind of shows you how it has spread under the leadership. So in the first 40 years, this, I'm going to call it yellow, this yellowish area is the extent that the empire spread. 40 years, that is a lot of territory in the first 40 years. Okay, that's pretty significant when you consider, right, that we also have the fall of the Roman Empire. So all of this was Roman. All this was Roman. It is no longer, okay, it has collapsed, and now you have local kingdoms. And so these armies are coming, which are united under this one banner of Islam, and they're able to continue to spread Islam throughout the region. Okay, and as you can see from the map, that the green territories and purple territories, those are things that will expand to or not expand to based on some of the battles that go on, but we'll talk about that at a later date. Okay. So Islam spreads because it can bring that message of unity. So what is that message of unity? Right. That is what are called the five pillars. Okay, these five pillars are in the holy book for Islam, which is called the Quran. Okay, Koran or Quran. It's spelled both ways depending on what source you're looking at. And this is the holy book of Islam. It has the word of God according to Gabriel as he brought it to Muhammad when he wrote it down. And one of the most important things are the five pillars of Islam, right? Which is in the activity that we're working on this week. The first is the declaration of faith, and that is essentially to say that there is no God but God, or there's no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of God. Okay? They must pray 5 times a day while facing Mecca. Let me come back to that in a minute. They must give alms to the poor. Alms is charity donations to the poor and the Muslim community as a whole. Okay. Fasting during the holy month of Ramadan, from sunrise to sunset. Eating most foods is forbidden. Drinking of water is okay. And when the sun sets, there is a lot of restrictions on what can be eaten during that time. At the end of the month of Ramadan is a 3-day feast, if you will, that kind of breaks the fast and celebrates the end of the fast. And it is supposed to be indicative of the suffering through which Muhammad and his followers endured early on. And that then leads to the Hajj, which is the pilgrimage to Mecca, which all Muslims are expected, I want to say required to take at least once in their lifetime, but are at least expected to take if they're physically able. That has to do with their health and so on. And so during this time, they go through a number of steps, which are symbolic of Muhammad and his followers' trials and tribulations early on in their escape from Mecca, the Hijrah, their return, and so on. So they walk through the desert and they pray and all these other things. And it's very involved, and you get hundreds of thousands of followers at the same time each year to go ahead and engage in this. Is quite a sight to see all those people. It's quite encouraging to see the unity that there is. And then you could also understand why, just by looking at that unity that happens even today, that all of these places Islam spread to. Okay, so those are the really basic ideas. You can read a little bit more about it in the activity that we're doing. But if you have any questions about that, please send me that message, whether it is here in Zoom or whether you are sending to me in Edsby. Okay, well, thanks. And I'm going to stop recording now.